Welcome to another DK Custom Products video. My name is Kevin, this is Dwayne, and today we're going to talk about axle bearing retainer plates
for the trike.
What are axle bearing retainer plates? They're a piece of pot metal from Harley. Unbelievable.
Yeah, Harley already has an outdated design with their trike solid axle rear end, and at each end of those solid axles is the bearings, and there's a retainer plate. You know, your life is on the line with this plate. You know, if those axle bearings blow out, your wheel comes off, something catastrophic. But before we get started, we'd appreciate it if you would like, comment, and subscribe to our channel. It would really help us out. Now, I just preached the whole doom and gloom. Your wheels could come off. Not likely to happen.
What happens is and we've read about this and talked to more than a few customers who've had to replace their entire differential because the little C-clip came off inside on the axle, inside the inside part of the axle, inside the differential, and the whole differential blew up and they had to replace the whole differential. And that is because of this little bugger right here.
Right. Now, when did you come to the conclusion that there was a drastic need for an upgrade for that axle bearing retainer plate?
Well, I've had 3 trikes. I'm on my 3rd tri-glide right now. I had an 11, I had a 14, and now I have a 19. When I had my 14, we were getting ready to go on about a 40-day trip, including the road to Bella Coola. And you can put some pictures up here of the road to Bella Coola. It's one of the most dangerous roads in the world. And I wanted the trike to be in tip-top shape. And I had felt some looseness in the rear end. And I thought it was the heim joints on the panhard rod. I was wondering if it was my swing arm bushing. I kept trying to figure out what it was. And it was none of the normal things. And so we really started tracking it down, and we got down, pulled the axles out, and we saw that the bearing that holds the axle onto the rest of the trike, that bearing is held onto the trike by 4 bolts going through this plate, and this plate pushing up against the bearing. Well, what happens, this plate is so thin as pot metal, you can see the witness marks. This plate is not flat. This plate is bowed. Now, it didn't come bowed. It's supposed to be flat to hold it there. But when it bows out, because it's not strong enough, when it bows out, it then lets that bearing rock back and forth against the plate.
Right. And
you get that looseness, and that's why there's marks here and marks here where that bearing was rocking back and forth against this plate. So when we saw this cheap old piece of pot metal was what was holding the rear wheels on the trike, Devin took the measurements and designed something out of steel. It's also waterproof, as you'll see in a minute, that this does not keep the water out of the bearing. It's also waterproof. It has a O-ring in it, and it's steel, and there's not going to be any flex in it. And when we put that in, then the axle bearings were tight inside the axle housing, and I no longer had that looseness in the rear end and was comfortable to go on the road to Bella Coola as far as this was concerned. So yeah, we're going to show right now, go step by step through all the different components of it. And also there's going to be a video on how to install this on your trike that we'll put up in the left-hand corner here. And you can see the witness marks where the bearing was just banging back and forth against this retainer plate.
And these photos are on the product page of our website.
Right.
There'll be a link
this
for that.
This is off of my 14 trike that we discovered this problem on. Look how banged up that bearing is, and that's from that bearing banging around inside the cast steel hub, axle hub, that holds the whole axle, bearing the axle into the trike. You can see that because the axle had that play in it, that the splines were starting to wear out, and then it's also not waterproof. So you see how water got into that's the hub that the bearing sits in.
Yeah, that's never good.
And water sat there long enough to start rusting that hub. So check out this little section of the Bella Coola Road that I was able to travel safely because of this.
Y'all ride safe out there.